Hello and welcome to this, the first of 5 videos that I've created for the Oklahoma Department of Libraries about the 2021 Collaborative Summer Library Program theme of Tales and Tales. My name is Will Stuck and I'm really happy to be here sharing my love of summer reading and hopefully providing you with a couple of programming ideas that you can take into next summer. And some of you may recall seeing me at the live summer reading workshops just a couple of years ago in Oklahoma. And I know what you're thinking, that live workshops are way more fun than watching a bunch of videos. And you are correct, but it's 2020 and nothing's as much fun as it should be. But maybe you recall, I co-presented the summer reading workshops the year the theme was Libraries Rock. I co-presented alongside the talented Jennifer Strauss. And then I was back for the following summer's theme of A Universe of Stories and presented those workshops solo. So if you were in attendance at those workshops, you know, hopefully you remember why I love summer reading as much as I do. But more importantly, hopefully you know what my main goal was from those workshops. Yeah, I want to provide you with ideas, but I have a bigger goal. So in case you weren't in attendance at those live workshops, maybe you're a new hire, maybe you just didn't want to go, no judgment here. The important thing is you're watching these videos now. If you weren't there, I want to start this video series off by telling you a little bit about myself and why I love summer reading as much as I do. But also, I want to tell you what I hope that takeaway is. Whenever I do a summer reading workshop, whenever I do a programming workshop, I almost always have the same goal, and I definitely do for this video series as well. So after I tell you about me and why I love summer reading, I'm going to tell you my goal. Then I'm going to tell you what you can expect in these videos, and I'm going to tell you the topic of all 5 videos. After that, we're going to jump right into the subject of this first one. So let me start off by telling you a little bit about myself. So I was a fan of summer reading long before I was an employee of the library system. My family grew up 6 blocks away from one of the library locations in St. Joseph, Missouri. That's located up in the northwest corner of the state. And my dad was an avid reader. My mom read a lot, so we were at the library a lot growing up. And of course I did the summer reading program and got really cheapy trinket toys by reading, but I loved it. And then my school that I went to, kindergarten through 8th grade, was 2 blocks closer to that same library than my house was. So we walked there with my school all the time. So the library was a very important part of my childhood. And when I graduated high school, I wanted a job that worked around my college schedule because I was going to school locally. And I wanted a job that not only worked around that schedule, but I wouldn't go home smelling like French fries at the end of the night. Because honestly, I support the fast food industry enough. And I applied at a place that I loved, and that was my local library. And fortunately, they had a position, and I was a page when I started out putting books away, and it didn't take long before that changed. So I started working at the library June 2nd of 1993, and I retired from my library career June 2nd of 2017 to become a professional speaker, workshop presenter, and performing edutainer, doing school assemblies and library shows. But during that 24-year-long career at the library, I did children's programming for about 21 of those years. And then for the last 17 or 18 of those 21, I was in charge of my own children's department. And I had so much fun when that happened. Not that I didn't have fun before, but I was incredibly fortunate because my administration fully supported me. And I'm not talking just about my branch manager, but even the system director. It's not lost on me how fortunate I was that they approached me. They saw how much I love doing programming, and they told me I could do as much or as little programming as I wanted to do. Well, the thing is, I did as much. I did a ton of programming because here's the thing. I love getting kids interested in books. When I can find a reluctant reader a book that they want to read, man, nothing made me happier. But I also knew about myself that I'm very impact driven. I'm not money driven. My family wishes I was, but I'm not. I like to see that I'm making a difference. And as a children's librarian, you make a difference. We make a difference all the time in kids' lives and families' lives. And a lot of times we get to see that instantly, whether we're making kids laugh or smile or sing songs, or maybe even scaring them with a spooky story, or maybe we're teaching them something new with those older kids, like educational after-school programs, or just showing them the awesomeness that can be found inside of books and library resources. We're making an impact. And so if I was able to make that impact, that thing that drives me on a daily basis, and I could do so through programming, man, I did a ton of programming. So not only did I do programming throughout the year, but when summer rolled around, I saw that as my opportunity to reach more people. and schools were out, families were taking time off together, and I saw the opportunity to even get more people in our library. And I kind of came up with this mantra that I really lived by once I was put in charge of my own department, and that was I wanted the library to be a part of the community, not a place in the community. Now, if you were at those live workshops, you heard me say that numerous times. That's because it really was my mantra, and it went through my head all the time at work. And so when I'm doing these workshops, it's always going through my head is I wanted the library to be viewed as a part of the community, not just some warehouse with some books in it. And the way that I found to do that was through programming. Specifically, the summer programming, I got to be out in front. We really got to get the library in the media and out in the community. So that's why I love summer reading. I got to make an impact. I saw the importance of my job as a children's librarian and the importance of the library, and the summer was the best time to highlight that. So that's why I'm talking to you today. Fortunately I was recognized by peers and by other organizations, and now even though I don't work for libraries, I get the opportunity to do what I'm doing now and talking to other people about why being a children's librarian is awesome, and specifically why summer reading time is so much fun. So that's it. Now, as far as that takeaway I was telling you about, there really is a takeaway that after every live workshop that I'm really hoping you're walking out the door with. See, because it started when I first started doing summer reading workshops years ago, it was to get programming ideas and craft ideas. You would attend a workshop, whether I was presenting them or attending them, it was somebody going through the manual and showing you cool things that were in there or coming up with maybe one or two new ideas. And so when I first started presenting, that's what I did. It was just like, here's a craft, here's a craft, here's a craft, here's a craft, here's an activity, here's a song. And I would just give you so much stuff and hopefully something would stick. Now, I still try to give out a lot of information at my workshops, but my goal is not for you to walk out with a programming idea anymore. If you do, fantastic. My end goal, what's driving me at these workshops to do what I do and to speak so passionately about summer reading is I want you to leave one of these workshops, or in this case, this series of videos, loving summer reading. I want you to go, if you're one of those people like most other non-children's library staff are, that when summer reading rolls around and you go, summer reading. I don't want you to do that. After hearing these ideas and watching these videos or attending a workshop, I want you going, yeah, summer reading. I can't wait to get started on this. I want you to see the impact you can make during this time. And so how to use these themes they come up with to make your job easier, to make that impact better. So that's my goal. I want you to leave these videos. Hopefully, if you got an idea too, awesome. But really, if you just leave these videos or a live workshop down the road and you just really see the impact that you're having on other people's lives and how you can do that in the summer, I'm getting what I want out of these. Now, with that being said, at my live workshops, a couple things you should know. Frequently, people have to tell me, hey, Will, can you slow it down a little bit? I talk fast. I've always talked fast. And when I'm talking about something I love or I'm excited about, I talk faster, just like we all do. And so I kind of already told you how much I love summer reading, so you can guess how fast that means I talk. I will try my best to speak slowly in this video, or slower than I normally do. But the beauty of this being a recording as opposed to a live workshop is if I'm going too fast, you can rewind and hear me say it again. There you go. You can always interrupt me in a workshop. In fact, that brings me to the second point, is at live workshops, I love interruptions. If you have a question, ask me the questions. If I need to explain something more, ask me a question. Now, in a video, you might be thinking, how do I ask you a question? At the end of each video, I'm going to have every possible way you can contact me. I'm going to have phone number. I'm going to have my website address, which has a contact form. I'm going to give you my email, all my social media links. You go however you can, whatever's most convenient for you. If you have a question, ask me. But I also like interruptions in my workshops because besides questions, I'm hoping I give an idea that makes you go, oh, hey, you know what? Yeah, that's good, but I'm thinking I could do it this way. Great. If you hear something I say and it leads you down another rabbit hole on how you can do a better program, fantastic. Share that idea. Even if it's something I don't talk about, but you have ideas on how you want to use this theme already, share it. If you don't share it with me, share it with other librarians and however you can, whether it's through listservs or whatever you've got. Because this hive mind we have is super awesome. like I said, the workshops used to be you read the manual or you got some ideas. Being a children's librarian, we used to have to rely on workshops, conferences, manuals to come up with our programming. Maybe the Copycat magazine, if you ever remember that one, to get your ideas. But we all have so many resources we didn't even have 10, 11 years ago. Not just Pinterest, but social media groups where librarians can share ideas and programming thoughts, and even outside of the library world, craft pages dedicated on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, again, just sharing ideas for crafts for kids or STEM ideas. Actually, I like STEAM because I think that the arts is important in there. But we have so many resources for programming that I know that the ideas I'm giving you, yeah, hopefully they'll stick. But again, your ideas are just as important. Share those. Share those on any of those platforms. Share those with people. Share them with me. If you don't want to send me an email, you don't want to send me a message all those ways, and you don't feel like sharing with anybody through listserv or whatever, in January, I'm going to do a live Zoom. Adrian and I'll send out the information. Join us then, ask your questions on the Zoom, or share your thoughts. Because again, your ideas are just as good as any idea I have, and you should share them. With that being said, let's learn what we're going to hear in all 5 of these videos. In our first video, this video, after I get done running my mouth right here, we're going to jump into pre-K programming. Then our second video, we're going to talk about kids programming. We're talking probably about age 5 through 10 or 11, those very tween years. And then third video, tween and teen. We're going to get those 10 and 11s again, but we're going to have some other ideas for older kids. Now, the reason that I have the 10 and 11s in both the second and the third video is because, as you know, if you work with tweens, some are of the mindset where they want to do the kids stuff, and some are too mature for that and they want more sophisticated stuff. Then they're going to be in the teen stuff. So if you do teen programming, I recommend you watch both, or if you do tween programming, check out both videos because there's a little bit of something in both of those. In the fourth video, we're going to talk about using the theme at your library. So specifically, we're going to be talking about decorating a lot in the first part of it, why we decorate in the summer, here's some ideas for how to decorate your library, and that's whether you have 0 floor real estate and you just have 1 bulletin board or end caps, or maybe you have an entire floor dedicated to children's services. I'm going to give you some ideas to use for decorating your space with the Tales and Tales theme. But like I said, it's more than just decorating. In that fourth video, we're also going to talk about virtual programming. Now, I'm going to try to think optimistically, more from the performer side of things for me too, to be honest, that hopefully we're kind of back to some sort of normalcy for next summer and we can do all of the ideas in the first 3 videos in-house. But as much as I like to be an optimist, I'm also a realist to know that maybe that's not going to happen. So in that fourth video, we're going to talk a little bit about virtual programming. I'm not going to beat it to death because honestly, you trial by fire. You found out what works for you and works for your patrons the best virtually. But I'm going to talk about some virtual ideas for story time. We're going to talk about some virtual programming ideas for the elementary and tween age. We're going to talk about curbside programming, like make and takes. Reverse that, take and makes, because it's curbside. We're also going to talk about performers in that fourth video, whether you're hiring a performer to come to your library, some tips for that, but as well, maybe how you handle performers in a virtual capacity if you decide to go that route. Then, in our 5th and final video, we are going to talk about my mantra, essentially, making your library a part of the community, not just a place in the community, specifically in the summer. We're going to talk about how to contact community resources, different community resources you might reach out to help you with your summer programming, whether that is with advertising, financial assistance, or even providing resources like at your programs, like speakers and things like that. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about volunteers, how to coordinate volunteers during the summer months that are coming in and helping you with your library programming, but also what you can do for your community business partners as a library. And because it shouldn't be a one-way street, this part of the community, not a place in the community. And then finally, in that last video, we're going to talk about other promotion ideas. Some out-of-the-box thinking, some stuff I know I mentioned before, but some new things to maybe get the word out about your summer program in your community. So that's what the 5 topics of the videos. And that's about me. That's what I'm hoping you walk away from. Hopefully you caught all that. Let's jump into this first topic of preschool programming and tales and tales. So I'm going to start the pre-K video off the same way I'm going to start off the next two videos, which is giving you my opinion on how important I feel sticking to the summer reading theme is when it comes to actually creating programs for your patrons for that specific age group. So for this preschool age group, how important is it to use this theme? Probably not very important. To be perfectly honest, preschoolers, they're not bringing themselves to the library. They're not really motivated by storytime themes so much as they're just excited about storytime. And so it's the adults that are bringing them to the library. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, guardians, whoever's bringing them to the library. If you're offering quality story times, what the theme is probably doesn't matter a whole lot. Or if you're using a whole theme for an entire summer's worth of story times, probably not going to make a huge difference on whether or not people are going to show up or not. They're not going to be like, oh, we're not going this year because it's about this. Oh, we'll go this year because the theme's this. I just don't think it matters a whole lot when it comes to you deciding what kind of programs you want to offer for preschoolers. Really all across the board, I think it's more important to offer quality programs that don't tie your hands. Why limit the quality of your programming just to stick within the theme? But especially for this age group, really, I don't think the theming matters a whole heck of a lot. The only ways I can think that the theme might impact whether or not a preschooler wants to come to the library or not for a program is two things, and it would be the older preschoolers. The first one would be if you decorate your library space for the summer. If you do something extra and over the top to make your library space seem special, which is what we're going to talk about in the fourth video, then yeah, maybe preschoolers will be like, I want to go to the place that has whatever you've got for decoration. But again, that's not really your programming, that's your decor. The second way I think that the theming might get some preschoolers to want to come to the library, but this is a multi-step process here, is if they have older siblings that they are aware that their older siblings are participating in programming specifically relating to a theme. So that means you probably have to have an older preschooler who is aware that there's a theme and that their older siblings are attending programs specifically relating to that theme and they want to be a part of that theme too. So like I said, that's not going to be a whole lot of your preschoolers. So really, the best bet is if you can use the theme, great. Use the theme. Make your life easier. But if you can't, just offer quality story times. This year, however, the theme of Tales and Tales having to be all about animals, why wouldn't you use the theme this year? And what I'm talking about is in previous years, maybe it's hard to implement the theme into every single story time. The most recent workshop I did in your state for a universe of stories, there's only so many quality astronaut, UFO, alien, planet books out there that you can read at story time before you're just reading garbage that fits into the theme but's not a great read aloud. It would be better for you to find a great read aloud and incorporate it. But animals, I don't know about you, but if you're a theme person at Storytime, my guess is you do a lot of animal themes. I know I did, whether that was for specific animals or if it was just like on the farm or in the jungle or whatever. So this summer, using the theme is super easy, and with resources like the manual that provides all these great pre-K programming ideas, which is one of the two areas I always feel the manual excels in, is pre-K programming and bibliographies. Why not take advantage of it and make your life easier? So with that being said, I'm going to give you some ideas that I have on how to use the theme for your pre-K programming. For me specifically, we're talking mainly story time. Rarely do I do anything extra on top of my regular story time for preschoolers. Some performers maybe have pre-K appeal, maybe like a family fun night, maybe has some pre-K. So when I talk pre-K programming, I'm talking story times. And so if I'm talking story times, let me give you a rundown of how I ran my story times so that when I tell you this information, you know where it's fitting in each section. So at my story times, I did a morning session and I did an afternoon session. Both of them ran 30 to 35 minutes long, sometimes 40 if there was a really involved craft or something. I never booted anybody out, so sometimes kids would stick around and play in the storytime room for a little bit after story time, but rarely was anybody in the storytime area for more than 45 minutes because I had a separate room for it. If your storytime area is your children's department, it's a little bit different. But mine were about 30, 35 minutes long. My story times operated this way. I had a puppet who came out, a folk Manus puppet. He came out at the beginning before story time started. He would greet the kids, make jokes with them, kind of entice those kids that were nervous about coming into story time to come in. And he went away. Once it was time to start story time, I put the puppet up because he was a distraction, more for me than for the kids. And then I would talk about what next week's storytime theme was, just so they knew, hey, next week we're going to do this. But this week we are learning about this. And I would tell them what the theme was. And I would tell them in English, I would tell them in Spanish, and I would tell them in sign language how to say the theme in all three of those ways. Then we would hear 2 books relating to the theme. And then we would stand up and we would do a little stretch. We would sing a song. We'd do more stretching. We'd sit down, hear 2 more books. And then we would do a quick and easy, simple craft. If I didn't have a craft for that week, coloring pages were my friends. Hey, take a coloring page. I used to, at every story time, also start my story time off by telling parents different pre-reading skills they can look for. But to be perfectly honest, they seem to zone out. So what I would do is I would just utilize those pre-reading skills in my story time and kind of make it known that, hey, here's a poster with pre-reading skills. But I didn't get too preachy at story time. So that was it. Intro of the theme and 2 books, stand up, song, stretch, 2 more books, craft, go home. That was my whole thing. Now, revolving around a central theme each week helped me out. Because, some weeks when I couldn't get my books, I just did, favorite books. But for the most part, I could find 4 books that fit the theme. During the summer months, some years, it wasn't easy to fit 4 books or to find 4 books that fit that theme. So I started doing something a little bit different. I started doing special storytime book selection. I did this so that I felt like I was still somehow incorporating the theme into preschool programming, but I really wasn't lowering the quality of books that I wanted to read to my kids at story time. So I would pick a theme, 3 of the books would fit that theme, but then we would pick a special book out at each story time in the summer. And we did this by, I would select, before the whole summer reading session started, storytime session started, I would pull like 20 of my all-time favorite read-aloud books, books that I knew were guaranteed hits. I pulled those, checked them out to my children's department card, and then I wrote down the titles of all of those on a slip of paper, and it varied on what the slips of paper looked like. And then after we read the 3 books that fit the theme, a kid would come and pick one of those pieces of paper. Now, the way they selected the book is how I tied the theme into the program. So for instance, the year that the theme was Make a Splash, I took an old 10-gallon aquarium, I painted water on the inside, I made paper fish that I wrote the titles of the book on, put a paper clip on each of the fish's mouths, put those in the tank, made a fishing pole out of a dowel rod, some fishing line, and a magnet. And after 3 books, a kid would come up that I picked out of the crowd, and they would fish out our special storytime book. The year that it was Dig Into Reading, I made a planter box, crinkled up some brown scraps of paper to be dirt, made fun foam carrots, and wrote the titles of the books on the carrots. And they got to pick a book out of the special garden. Or I know at the live workshops, I brought my punch board that I used for my action story time the year that it was Every Hero Has a Story. So a science display board, I cut 9 holes in it because I had 9 story times in the summer. And then I would take a styrofoam bowl on a piece of paper, write the title, put it in the styrofoam bowl, glue some tissue paper over that bowl, glue that behind in the back of the display board to where there was a hole and you could see the tissue paper, and the kids could punch like a superhero through the tissue paper and pull out the special book. Now for this animal theme, there's all kinds of stuff you could do. You could have a picture of a possum on the wall, and each of the baby possum that's hanging on the mama possum could have a book title on it. Maybe it's a peacock, and each peacock feather that they come and pick up has a book on it. So if you wanted to incorporate a special storytime book selection, that's a really easy way to just kind of, hey, here's the theme for the summer reading kind of in our programming. And you don't feel like it's forcing you to offer a lower quality program. But again, animal theme, super duper easy. Now, when I was going through the manual, I was really excited to see that they had a whole section on the Itsy Bitsy Spider, because one of my favorite storytime themes to do, I did it at least once a year, was a spider story time. And I like doing spider story times because I'm one of those kind of weirdos. I used to have a pet tarantula that lived in my office at the library, but I know that spiders, for the most part, are good things. So we want spiders around. And so being able to talk to kids about spiders at an early age was kind of fun for me. So we would do spider story time. I frequently would have a nonfiction book and show pictures of real spiders. We would talk about what spiders eat and how they can be helpful. But we always seemed to sing Itsy Bitsy Spider whenever we did Spider Story Time. Now, I like doing Itsy Bitsy for a couple of different reasons. One is I think it's really fun to see all the different ways people sing this one song. Like everybody knows Itsy Bitsy, but some people sing it Itsy Bitsy, some sing it Eensy Weensy. Does it matter? No, still fits the rhythm. I also like seeing how kids did the spider walking up the spout because some did it the way that I learned, which is your index finger and your thumbs touching and you just go like this. And some people did it like this. Some people had the spider crawl up an arm. Some crawled up the chest. Any of those wrong? Absolutely not. But it was really fun for kids to see all these different ways that people sang the same song. So I like that aspect. But I also liked it because, if you remember, I said I introduced the theme of storytime in English, Spanish, and sign language. I did that because my bilingual story times failed miserably. I tried several times, different days of the week, different times. I could never get them off the ground. If I did an outreach one, it did better. But in-house, man, bilingual story times failed for me. So instead, I took this whole Dora the Explorer approach, where I would teach them one word a week, and then I would just kind of weave that word in throughout story time. I would substitute the English word for the Spanish word. And then after doing something for National Deaf Awareness Week, and I learned about the importance of ASL, I started teaching them English, Spanish, and sign language. And I would do that. I would also sometimes substitute the sign in for English or Spanish in story time. Well, in the manual, it tells you how to sing Itsy Bitsy Spider in English and in Spanish. And if you want to, if you know how to sing it in Spanish, great. If you have Spanish-speaking patrons and you can sing it that way, wonderful. But for time reasons, like I said, I took this Dora the Explorer approach. We would sing it in English first. Then we would sing it in Spanish. And in Spanish, we would substitute the word spider from English into spider in Spanish to say that it is araña. And then we would sing it a third time, and instead of saying spider or araña, we would do the sign for spider. And that is where you cross your wrists and then you just go like that. That's the sign for spider. Now this is really fun. The kids enjoyed it. And what I liked is when parents would do it and the parents would mess up too, because it's kind of a brain exercise. And typically there were giggles around the room as we sang the song that we all already knew, because we were all kind of messing up. And that was sort of fun too. So what I thought we would do real quick, let's sing Itsy Bitsy Spider that way. Let's sing it in English. Then we'll sing it again, and this time we won't say spider in English, we will say araña, and then we'll do it again, and instead of saying spider or araña, we'll go like that. Ready? Okay, here we go. Oh, and do your hands however you want. The itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And the itsy bitsy spider went up the spout again. Very good. Let's do it again. Ready? Here we go. Remember, it's araña. Don't say spider in English. Here we go. The itsy bitsy araña went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the araña out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And the itsy bitsy araña went up the spout again. Is that easier or harder than you thought it would be? Let's try it with the sign. Remember, I don't want to hear English. I don't want to hear Spanish. I want to see the ASL for spider. Okay, here we go. Ready? By the way, this is the one where most people mess up. It's okay if you do. The itsy bitsy went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And the itsy bitsy went up the spout again. So anyway, that was always really fun for me. I enjoyed, I didn't have to teach them the entire song in Spanish, but we still learned how to say a word multiple ways, and we got to find a way to really kind of drive home how to say those words, which was fun. One more quick note about spiders before we talk about something else, just because it was in the manual and it got my brain going down that path. Besides singing Itsy Bitsy and reading some spider books, like I said, I would show them nonfiction books, but we talked about the importance of like spiders in your garden, and I showed the kids a really simple, fun craft we would make, not at every spider story time, but every once in a while we would do this one. We would make spider web frames. They're for gardens, and you make a little frame and you put it in your garden, and a lot of times, a spider will come and move into the frame and catch all those pests that you don't want eating your flowers and your plants at home. So here is how to make one of those spider frames. So this spider frame craft is super ridiculously easy. Now I could just hold up the finished product and I'm guessing most of you would look at it and go, oh yeah, that's how you make that. But I've done enough workshops to know that sometimes people want to see step-by-step how things happen. So I'm going to show you how to put together this ridiculously easy spider frame. Now this is a frame you put in your garden or near plants near your house, and there's a real possibility that spiders will use that frame to make a web to catch their meals. And that's what I found that the kids at my Storytime liked about it. It wasn't just artwork they could take home and put on the fridge. It was something that an animal could really possibly interact with, and frequently I heard back from kids whenever a spider did take up residence in their spider frame. So here's what you need. Craft sticks. One pattern I'm going to show you requires 5, the other pattern requires 7. So you can do either pattern, but you need craft sticks. Popsicle sticks would work, but I like the wider ones, especially when working with little hands. Next, you need a way to adhere the sticks together. A glue stick works fine for the preschoolers. Is it the best possible product you can use for gluing sticks together they're going to be setting outside? No. Is it perfect for preschoolers? Yes. You could just use regular school glue. It just takes a little bit longer to dry. Hot glue would probably be the best option, but I'm not giving a preschooler a hot glue gun. So unless you or another adult at Storytime wants to be in charge of hot gluing these, a glue stick will work. If you're just not sure if the glue stick was enough, you can use yarn to reinforce the corners. I only had some ugly brown yarn sitting around my house, but you could get some pretty yarn and just wrap the corners, and that would help hold it together. Again, do you need to? No, this is purely optional. It's for you in case you think that the glue sticks aren't going to hold and you want to put something extra for the kids to do. And of course, part of the fun is decorating the spider frame before you put it in your garden. Now, I'm going to use markers. Markers do show up best on the craft sticks. You could also just buy like a rainbow assortment of craft sticks and not worry about coloring them. Crayons work as well, but they don't stand out as brightly. So I prefer using markers. So that's the main things you need. You need craft sticks, a way to adhere them, and if you want to decorate it, something to decorate it with. So I'm going to show you the 2 patterns, and then I'm going to assemble them. That way you don't have to watch me put glue stick on every corner. So the first pattern, the one that requires 5, is very easy. You need the stake that goes into the ground. You need to tee that off, and you're basically just making a square. And in each spot where the sticks overlap, you're putting glue. So there you go, that's the frame. Now all you have to do is glue it and decorate it. Again, you could always wrap the corners if you wanted. This one works good, it works okay. But I can tell you from experience at my house when I do this with my kids, we have better success with the frame that requires 7. It's not all that much more difficult, still just gluing the sticks at the corners, but you have the one that goes in the ground, and we're going to put a hexagon as opposed to a square. This is also a good time to teach kids a new word. You could teach them about hexagon. So as you can see, just adding those 2 sticks makes the frame definitely bigger, a little bit more room for the spider to work. And here we have it, the completed spider frames. And you can see just adding a little bit of decoration on the end. Of course, you could do glitter and get all as fancy with this as you'd like. But again, this is with preschoolers, so you really don't need to do a whole lot. And I do find that this works best if you spend a couple of minutes talking about spiders, and that spiders aren't necessarily scary and how they can help, especially in the garden, by catching things that we don't want eating our plants. So it's very simple, very easy craft. And I think it's really neat when a spider takes up residence in one of these. Now, multiple times during my career as a librarian, when I would talk to parents about Storytime and how Storytime's worked, or even now when I do workshops, and I mentioned that I read 4 books at Storytime, I would have people say to me, how do you get kids to set for 4 books? They understand having a 30-minute story time because, 1, 2 books, a craft, some manipulatives, whatever, makes a half an hour. But 4 books, how do you get them to set for 4 books? And really, for me, it boiled down to 2 things. And, well, 3 things. One is I picked books that I liked, books that were funny, books that made me laugh, books that were interesting that I knew that if it made me laugh, hopefully it'd make the kids laugh. So that's the first thing, is book selection. Second thing is I had fun. I was silly. Too many adults care way too much about how silly they look in front of other people. I mean, you're a children's librarian. If you have any dignity left, you need to get rid of that. You'll have way more fun on your job. And the third thing, and the one I want to mention here, is that stretching. Before we would sing a song, we would do some sort of stretching activities. Now, a lot of times it was just like reach up high, who can reach the highest? Reach down low and touch your toes. Remember my rule, if you can't touch your toes, touch somebody else's. Okay, over to the side, over to the other side. And frequently I made way more noises doing that stuff than the kids did, whether I wanted to or not. But then we would also do the pretzel stretch, which has to do with kinesiology. I went to a conference one time where they talked about kinesiology and kids, about how the way we use our bodies can help the way we think and feel. So the pretzel stretch basically involves crossing hemispheres. And when you do that, it's supposed to give your brain a reset. And so I did a pretzel stretch for years and years and years. Here's how we do it. You hold your hands out in front of you. And I recommend standing up from wherever you are and do the pretzel stretch with me. And again, if you're like, oh, what if somebody's watching? Remember what I said about dignity? Okay, here we go. Arms out in front of you. Point your thumbs up at the ceiling. Point your thumbs at one another. Turn them towards the floor. Cross your wrist. Hold your hands and bring it underneath. Now, if you can, go ahead and cross your legs as well. Now, you hold this for like 10 seconds. And then I would have the kids untwist everything, give their body a little wiggle, and then have a seat on the floor, and we'd hear 2 more books. And it wasn't until I'd been doing that for a number of years that I found out from one of my friends, who is a special education teacher, that they use this whole premise of crossing hemispheres and stuff a lot of times with her students. And so there's a lot to be said about this crossing hemispheres and stretching aspect. But I was thinking about this summer and how there was something I always wanted to incorporate during the stretching time that I never did. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of times as a children's librarian, we see something cool, we're like, oh, I'm going to do that. And then it just doesn't happen. Well, for me, it was yoga. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Will, from what we can see of you, well, you must be a yoga expert. Well, that is not the case. Yogurt expert, maybe. But yoga, no. And there is animal yoga out there, and I was aware of it, and I thought that would be really fun. In fact, I found some flashcards that had different yoga poses, and they all had animals associated with them, and I thought it would be really fun to hold up one of those each week, and we would do a yoga pose that was tied into a certain animal. And thinking about this summer's theme of animals and that yoga, this is a perfect summer if you've ever thought about trying to incorporate yoga into your story time. Animal yoga would be a fun way to do that. Now, I know there's books on it for yoga, animal yoga for kids, and I know there's different web resources that you can find yoga poses that have animal names, more than just downward dog. They'd call them things like the flamingo or whatever, but I know you can also buy flashcards that have different yoga poses that you can just hold up and say, this is the one we're doing today. So that's another thing that I've always wanted to incorporate in my story times, and I never got around to doing it. But I want to pass it on to you in case it sounds like something you might be interested in adding to your story times. Now, I really try my best at my workshops to provide information and ideas that aren't in the manual. But if I see something in the manual that kind of gets my brain going down a certain path, of course I'm going to talk about it. And so like the itsy bitsy spider thing, that made me think about that, and I wanted to share it with you. But there was another thing that was in the manual that really got me thinking about something fun that I did a lot of times in summer, and sometimes I even did it throughout the year. The manual talks about a scavenger hunt, printing off different pictures and hiding them around your children's section and having the kids go and find them. Now, in the manual, it's leaning towards more your elementary age for that, doing like an elementary scavenger hunt. But I think that you could totally apply this to the pre-K crowd, but you just need to simplify it down. Instead of having multiple things around the library they have to find or around the children's section they have to find, Sometimes what I would do is I would just take a special stuffed animal or a special like figurine or collectible, non-breakable, and I would just hide it and move it once a week. And if kids could find it and come and tell me where they found it, then we would have a special prize for them. A sticker, a bookmark, some leftover summer reading prize, something along that lines. But this summer would be a perfect time to try that. You could have your own safari, introduce the kids to the thing you're going to be hiding during story time. Say, oh, this is our stuffed giraffe. And if you can find the giraffe each week and tell me where you found them, you will get a special prize. So just another way you can incorporate the summer theme into your pre-K programming that's not a ton of effort on your part, but really will be something the kids will look forward to, because every time they'll come in, they'll start looking for that stuffed animal. Now I want to spend the rest of this video and I want to show you a few of my favorite crafts from when I did story times. And these are crafts that relate to animals, so they totally work for the 2021 theme. And you'll notice something very quickly when you start watching these. They are fast, they are easy, there's not a whole lot of supplies. And I think they're kind of cute and fun too, which is also a bonus. But the reason that I was all about speed, it's not out of laziness by any means. It is because my morning storytime session averaged about 65 people that were at it, and that's kids and adults. My afternoon was about 30-ish, 30 to 35 in my afternoon session. And so I didn't have a whole lot of me to spread around should people need help with the crafts. Some parents don't take the initiative to jump in and help their kids, but even those that do, I wanted to have as minimal instructions necessary to complete the craft as possible. Because again, there wasn't enough of me to go around to make sure that everybody was getting everything they needed taken care of. So I tried to make it fast, try to make it easy. Minimal supplies, because if nothing else, say they had to leave early. Maybe story time was they had to leave before the last book was done and they let me know that beforehand. I could give them the few essential supplies that they would need for it, and the other stuff they should have at home, whether that's be crayons or markers or whatever. So if I could just give them the pattern, or I could give them, say, something they might not have around the house, like chenille stems or straws or whatever, I could give them that. But then when they got home, it was simple enough and easy enough that they could complete the project without being at the library. So that's the goal with these crafts. They're fast, they're easy, I think they're fun and they're cute. So here we go, enjoy. So like I was saying, when I did crafts at my story times, it had to meet a couple of criteria. It had to be something fast. It had to be something easy. Again, this was more for if parents were in a hurry or they needed to take supplies with them, so fast and easy. And it also had to be something at least cute or kind of fun. So this one is super easy. It's not quite as easy as the spider frame, but it's still very easy. And I think it makes something really cute. And here's what you need. You need cardstock. You can use colored cardstock if you'd like. I happen to have white on hand, so that's what I'm going to use. You will also need a pair of scissors. Now for those little bitty hands, of course, you're going to want to use safety scissors. And if you're worried about preschoolers and cutting things, well, you know what? They need to start working on that fine motor skill of using scissors. And so the older pre-K kids, I say let them have it on their own. If they're younger ones, of course, that's when an adult will have to step in and help. But you need scissors. You will also need a pencil. And you will need something to color with. I'm going to use markers, but you could use crayons or you can use, colored pencils, whatever you happen to have on hand. And that's it. Oh, wait, you need one more thing. We are making a hand print bunny. And because we're doing it on cardstock, we can do a little something extra. It's not just like tracing your hand and making a turkey. We're actually going to do something a little bit different with it. So you need paper, scissors, pencil, something to color with, and a hand. Now that we have that, let me show you how to do this. Our first step is to trace the hand. Now for preschoolers, you might be able to get multiple hands on one piece of paper, but if your kids' hands are this size, well, I'd start IDing at the door. But anyway, have them spread their hands out like this, their fingers out, and then simply trace around the hand like you do. And when you get all the way back down to the wrist, what we're going to do is we're actually going to draw a straight line from basically where the thumb starts to curve over like this. So our line looks kind of like this. If you'd like, extra step, if you want to do it, you can draw bunny feet right here. I'm going to go ahead and trace this in marker so that you guys can see it a little bit better. And this is about where you want to draw a line straight across from. I'm going to go ahead and dot that just so you know. If you want to stop there, that's great. But again, like I said, if you want, you can put some feet like that on there. Just like that. Now, to decorate your bunny and give it a face. Before we cut it out, I find that easier rather than cutting and then having to try to draw on top of that. So we're going to put some eyes in there for our bunny. Now, in case you're looking at this going, I don't see the bunny yet. Well, this middle finger is actually going to fold all the way back, and it's going to kind of be like a little kickstand, a leg, so that our bunny can stand up straight. So these are the ears. So our face is going to be right here in the middle of our palm. And again, when I do especially art projects with kids, I stress that it's all about having fun, so they can make their bunny look however they want. I'm going to put a nose in there, make my nose pink. Let's give him a couple whiskers too. Now, just so we know that it is a rabbit and not a cat, let's give it some teeth here. And I'm going to go ahead and add just a couple lines so that we know that these are the ears. I'm going to get extra fancy with mine and put a little bit of pink inside my ears. But then now once that's done, it's a matter of cutting it out. So I'm going to speed this process up because I am, well, let's just put it this way. On my kindergarten report card, scissor skills were my lowest grade, and yeah, it shows. So let me speed this up. I will cut out this hand and we'll see what we do next. Wow, even sped up, that seemed to take forever. But anyway, this is what we have. I know it looks like some sort of weird matte graining kind of rabbit with some weird thing coming out of his head. But if you chose to do the feet, here's where you're going to fold the feet up like so they stick out straight. Just like that. Then you're going to take the middle finger of the tracing and you are going to fold it back. Just like that. This is why we use cardstock. And now our bunny stands up on its own. And let me show you what that looks like. So there we have it. There's our handprint bunnies. Very, very quick, very, very easy. And the parents seem to like these as much as the kids did. So I hope you have fun with your kids making some handprint bunnies. Next, let's make some finger puppets that are a little bit different than the kind that are featured in the manual. And they are ones that I used frequently during my story times. So in this video, each of our crafts progressed just a little bit more with fine motor skill difficulty for our pre-K. However, I've used all of these crafts in story times, and so yeah, some of the younger ones might struggle with them, but if adults are there to help, no problem at all. And the older pre-K kids seem to do just fine with those. So whereas the spider web frame was pretty simple, it's just glue and then free coloring on the sticks if you'd like to do that. And the last craft of the handprint bunny is tracing and cutting, so that's the trickiest part of this one. This one is coloring and cutting, but this does get a little bit more difficult because it does require a specific cutting that's a tad bit more challenging. So here's what you need to make these animal finger puppets. I have provided 3 patterns to Adrian to forward on to you guys. You will need one of these puppet patterns. You will also need crayons or something to color your pattern. Then scissors again. This requires cutting. So safety scissors for the little ones. So now that we have all of the supplies, let me go ahead. I'm gonna make one of these for you, and I'll even speed that process up because I'm sure you don't want to sit here and just watch me color. And then when we're done, I'll show you all 3 patterns completed so you see what those look like. I'm going to go ahead and do the elephant because this was the first one I ever used in Storytime, and so I'm kind of partial to it. Now, this is my own design, but you can feel free to use it however you want. And by that, I mean there are other patterns like this online you can find. So if you find one and you like the elephant and it's more cute, go for it. But this is mine. I'm giving you permission to share it, photocopy, do whatever you need to do with it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to color our elephant. Once your puppet is colored, cut it out. Once it is cut out, then comes the difficult part. You actually need to cut out the circle that says cut out. This is where the little hands might need a little bit of help to do this. Easiest way to do it is to put a little fold in it and get a starting snip and then cut around. But however you feel is best, go for it, but you need to cut out that circle. Once that is done, your finger puppet is ready. Let me show you what they all look like and what you're supposed to do with the finger puppets. So now that you've got your puppet all cut out, it's just a matter of using the finger to make it the finger puppet. So you're just going to stick your index finger in the hole, and now you have your elephant's trunk. And this is really fun and really cute, and the kids always thought this was silly. And if you have a story time song that involves an elephant, maybe do this craft before you sing the song, because it kind of might be fun to have them do their best elephant sounds, which was always one of my favorites. Yeah. Anyway, but you could have them do an elephant song with this. Now, the other patterns I provided were a rabbit and an owl, and both of those have 2 holes in them. You're going to use your index finger, and you're also going to use your middle finger on those. Now, on my owl, I will admit, I kind of screwed up. My scissor skills are not great, as I have previously mentioned, and I accidentally cut too far down. But the owl, you could use it and have it perch on like a pencil or something if you wanted to do that, or you could just have the little legs for the owl. And then for the rabbit, you're going to use the 2 holes to actually make the ears. So you can go in there, and I was simple and kind of went with the white rabbit with the pink nose like I did with the handprint one because it's easy. But you can color it however you want. And now you've got a rabbit with some wiggly ears. And the thing is, if you like doing this pattern, really all you have to do is find a coloring sheet that you like that gives you the opportunity to cut out maybe for, I don't know, an octopus. You could do 4 fingers and do like the little tentacles of the octopus. You could do it for any number of animals, really, and have a lot of fun with it. Now, I will show you one more variation, and I provided a handout for this one as well. It is a frog. But instead of using a finger, what we actually did is I went to the party supply store and I bought a party blower. And so you have the frog face and cut it out. And I've seen several patterns for something similar to this online, but you can use a cup, a green cup, and glue some like little balls on pom-poms on top for eyes. And I've seen it out of fun foam, but really just printing it out and cutting a hole is the easiest thing. Now on your pattern, the hole that it says cut out is pretty large. That is because these party blowers, man, I've seen some that are like huge, and I've seen some that are really skinny. So your best bet is to go ahead and take it, and since the mouth's going to be colored in black anyway, just kind of cut a small hole first and then keep getting larger. But once you have the hole cut in there, and that is awesome, especially if you've got like 25, 30 kids running around making that noise, then the people on the internet are like, what are you? Anyway, whatever. That's me just being weird. These are really, really fun. I hope you guys make some of these and that your kids enjoy them. Now for our final craft in this video, this one requires probably the most fine motor skills that I've asked for so far, because not only do you have to color and you have to cut, but you have to be able to manipulate some straws here, some bendy straws. Also, there's a little bit of fine motor skills to actually get the craft to work. Now, when I first saw this craft, it was when I was visiting a Head Start to read some books. I walk in, all the kids are giggling, and I saw the craft they made, and it made me smile too. I immediately took it back to story time, and the next time I did a monkey story time, I did the swinging monkey craft as well. So here's what you need to do the swinging monkey craft. You will need the provided pattern, or you'll need to freehand draw your own monkey. You will need 2 bendy straws. You will need a pair of scissors, a roll of clear tape, and something to color your monkey. Step 1 is to color and cut out our monkey. Now, for time's sake, I'm not going to make you watch me color a monkey and cut it out because you've seen how my scissor skills are so far. So let's just fix that right now. Perfect. Now that your monkey is colored and cut out, you are going to take your 2 straws, extend them, and bend them at a 90-degree angle, like so. Then the longer side. If you made your monkey smaller, you could use the skinnier, the smaller side, but we're going to pinch the end of the straw and stick one end as far as we can into the other straw so that it looks like this. Then you take your monkey, put him right there, and you are going to use some tape and tape your monkey's hand to the bar. Don't worry about animal cruelty, it is a paper monkey. And there you go. This is our swinging monkey. Now that you have his hands taped on the straw, it is a matter of twisting the ends of your straw and your monkey will swing back and forth on the bar, which is kind of fun. And the kids thought this was really silly. I almost put it on cardstock the first time I did it, but I really like the way that it just kind of wiggles on regular copy paper. The flippy floppiness of it just made me laugh even more. Now, the first time I did this in story time, this was enough. The kids had a blast. But we ended up doing a little bit something different. I read the book Count the Monkeys by Mac Barnett, and I ended up taking some giant foam dice that I had purchased at like Five Below, or it's kind of like a dollar store if you don't have those in your area. And they're these just maybe 6 to 8 inches on each side square dice. And I would roll the dice, and then I would tell the kids to make their monkey flip that many times around the bar. So we turned it into a fun counting game to go along with the book Count the Monkeys. And it worked out great. So this craft, again, a little bit higher on the fine motor skills, but it's really silly, and the kids at my story time really seemed to like it. And then the parents seemed to like it when I added the math element to it. So that is it. That's our swinging monkey. Well, I hope you guys like those crafts. Remember, fast and easy. I really think that's the secret behind a lot of my more successful preschool storytime crafts, is just making them fast and easy, not overly complicated to where it frustrates the parents and frustrates the kids. So if you use those in the future, whether it be next summer, before the summer, after the summer, whatever, I hope your storytime kids enjoy them as much as my storytime kids enjoyed making them as well. Now, before we close out this video, because we're out of time, I do want to remind you again, if you have any questions about anything I said in this video, or you need me to elaborate on anything, you have an idea for a program, but need maybe some suggestions and you want my opinion, you're more than welcome to ask that as well. You can reach me at any number of platforms. So here are the different methods you can use to contact me should you have any questions or comments that you want to share. You can visit my website, willstuck.com, and there is a contact form at the bottom of the page. You can send me a message that way. If you prefer to email me directly, it is willstuck@willstuck.com. And then you can find me on all 4 of these social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. You're welcome to message me on any of those. I receive messages on all 4 on a regular basis. I will tell you, I check Facebook and Instagram more frequently than I do Twitter and LinkedIn, but you're welcome to use any of those. Or like I said, you could always give me a call, which is probably, if you want to get a hold of me fast, that's probably not the one to go with. But it is area code 816-390-4176. That is not toll free. That goes directly to my business line. And just because of my schedule, you may have to leave a message, but I promise I will try to get back with you as soon as I can. If you have anything you want to share or questions to ask and you opt not to contact me via any of those methods, please make plans to join us in January when we do the live Q&A and ask your question there, or share any thoughts you might have on upcoming programs that you plan on doing in 2021. Because again, this hive mentality, we're all working for the same goal, trying to grow lifelong readers and champions for the library. And really, the summer's a perfect time to really get that base going of getting these kids really to love the library, so they grow up seeing the library as a valuable asset for their community and making your library a part of the community not just a place in the community. Guys, that's all the time we have for this one. I will see you in the next video where we talk about children's programming and the 2021 theme of Tales and Tales. See you next time.